to do is we're actually going to valve it so that it's continuing the way it is now. And then you just literally walk out and do this, and then it'll send it the other way.
Okay.
So we're not going to remove anything, just in case
Right.
one or the other has a malfunction, we can always easily run it the other way. So we're not going to lose any capability. So if rerouting it up Melody somehow, if it ate itself, we can always go back and flip the switch and go back the way we are now until we get it fixed. So I told Sam I did not want to lose any functionality. So we're going to valve it that way.
Is this the only bid that you've gotten for this project?
It's the only one that we're gonna get. Yep. I mean, this is these are the city lines. We don't let anybody work on the city lines except the city. That's it. We don't let anybody else touch them.
And I thought the lawn services was a contractor.
They are. They're our contractor. That's the one we've been using for 15 years. Yeah. At least that long. So. All right. Any questions? Okay, we've talked about this previously. We got to get this done by the spring. We got to get it done before it rains, because that lift station can't handle the infiltration. And hopefully we'll do a little work around the lift station. Okay, any other questions? All right, ready to move forward? All right, this is something we got to get done before the roads get in, obviously. Because once the roads are in, we're going to start ripping out driveways again. So.
We need to put a contingency on this.
I don't think so. I think this is this is a fixed price. This is the fixed
He's
cost.
going to do it. There's.
This is it.
Okay.
He's actually going to buy the boring equipment.
Who's there?
Sam was going to buy it. I think he's going to buy some. I think that's what he's. I'm not sure though. I don't know whether he's going to rent it or buy it. I think he might buy it, but I'm not sure.
Okay. And motion to approve the mayor to execute the contract with Little Home Services to perform the force main updates.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, thank you. All right, this is important. I mean, this is really an important fix. So I wouldn't underestimate this. This is really a good thing to do. The other capital improvement, let's see, we got that. I think that's it. I'll bring up the other CapEx in a second. Okay, so next up we have this budget amendment. All right, so what I did was, so two main things in the budget amendment. We typically, when we do a budget amendment, we do it about now, because we're 6 months in, and we now know things that we didn't know before. So we're missing about $20,000 in property tax right now. So we've collected about 90%. So we're pretty close to the way there. Sales tax is in for Christmas. We just got that a couple days ago. So we pretty much know where everything is. On the city side, one of our biggest things we don't know is fire and EMS, because we don't know how many runs there were. So in June, when we're doing it, we don't know how many runs we had because the year isn't over yet. So at the end of the year, the Little Fire chief, we total them all up. Then we figured out how many runs there were. We multiply it by 550, Linda?
Yes.
550, we add our $15,000 readiness fee, and we calculate it out, and that's the payment for this year. So every year we kind of guess, but we don't know how many runs there were. So now we know we had more runs than last year. So the fire and EMS contract is going to go up. We budgeted 25, that's what it was this year. But it turns out we had more runs, so it's 31.5.
So we had more runs in 2018, and so we're budgeting for more in 2019.
Well, we always pay 1 year behind.
Oh, 1 year behind. Okay.
Because we don't know what they're going to be this year,
Right.
so we pay what we had last year.
So we're paying last year's bill.
We're paying last year's bill.
Yeah, we pay over yours.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the number we use for these 4 quarters.
So it could be less.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We don't have any emergencies and so.
So that's why so now we know that number, and so that's what that number is there. This CapEx moved from 5 to 35. So we have 5,000 in the budget, we haven't spent it, that's the city CapEx. So we've spent none of that. So this 35 is what we just approved. This is the geotech. That's what this 35 will be. Okay. On the revenue side, there's just a couple of changes. We got a slight increase in sales taxes relative to last year. Building permits, I know there's 2 houses that I've already seen the plans for that are coming in. They're already doing dirt work on one, they're about to start dirt work on the other one, so I'm pretty confident on that. Interest, last month, we're getting close to getting back to it. So last month, our interest was $885 in interest, where the year before it was $77. So tax pool is doing very well for us as far as making interest. So anyway, these are just kind of some little tidying up. And if we do this, then the budget will still be in the surplus, but we're going to eat up a little bit of that surplus because we're starting the roads. And the roads will end up in accounting. The geotech counts as part of the roads. So the auditor is going to count this as CapEx. It's going to go into the road. It's not going to count as an expense. It's not like doing a repair. All right, any questions kind of on these? And I'll show you, the individual spreadsheets are in there. But those are kind of the change in the general fund. In the utility fund, one of the things we have is we have this reimbursed expense problem. So we had an insurance claim, TML gave us $18,000 for put in the new pumps. Well, we got to put the $18,000 in the revenue because the auditor, we have to put $18,000 in CapEx. So if you looked at our CapEx, you'd say, oh my gosh, we were way over because we budgeted $10,000 for CapEx. We weren't. We had these reimbursed expenses. Okay. So we already have had 19,000 something in reimbursed expenses. We're going to have more. Where typically another place where this happens is that, like we have a builder, for instance, we just had where a builder wanted us to move his water tap. He didn't like where it was on the lot. Well, Little Elm Services is going to do it. So the builder pays us because the city's the only one allowed to touch a water line. That's a pass-through. We don't get it, we didn't do anything. But we have to count that as revenue in, and then we have to write a check to Little Elm Services because we don't want the contractor writing checks to Little Elm Services. That's not the way that it works. That's a city transaction to move your thing. So you have to write a check to the city. We turn around and write that check right back to Little Elm Services. So that's an example of one of these reimbursed expenses. So we segregate that so the auditor doesn't count that as like one of our day-to-day expenses. It's not. It's not the same as the light or the COSER. So on the utility fund expenses, we had put $75,000 in that line thinking we were going to be dealing with well issues. So what I'm proposing right now is we just zero that line out. Right now, we're not contemplating a new well. Right now, we're just going to wait on that issue. Contingency fund is just, we haven't spent any money in the contingency fund. The CapEx on the water, we originally had it at zero. What happened is we spent about $8,000 or so on CapEx for the water, and we had to put in a liner in our new tank. So we had to put in a liner. We had a few small minor leaks, and the more we looked at the tank, people recommended our water operator that we put a liner inside to really increase its life, basically. So that was about $8,000. So that's why this water CapEx will go to 10. I don't see any more CapEx on the water. On the sewer CapEx, we had 10,000 in there. We've already spent about 20 on these reimbursed expenses. So the thinking was this. We've spent about 20,000 on reimbursed expenses on the lift stations for the motors we got reimbursed for. That's 20. We're going to spend 35 approximately on this thing we just approved. So you're up to 55. And what we're looking at doing somewhere in the neighborhood of roughly 10 is that we're trying to figure out to underground the utilities at the wastewater plant. We've got to get the undergrounding underway. And I'm working with the adjacent landowner, and we may work on that together, to underground the utilities there. So that's why it's going to 65. There's like an extra 9,000 in there if we can underground the utilities there. We've already started working with CoServe on it. We have 2 power poles sitting in the middle of that yard where everything daisy chains overhead. And it's nuts the way they did that. It should all be underground. We have water, we have metal tanks, and we have high voltage. We have 440 volts of electricity dangling over the top of metal tanks full of water. No problem.
It's in the way of equipment when we get in there and to do repairs and things.
It's a problem with the drying bed now because they're afraid of some of the lower lines and stuff. We just need to clean it up. So that's the extra additional amount if you're looking at sewer CapEx. Okay? So if you want to see kind of the other lines, you know, I've tried to highlight the individual lines that go in. You can kind of see, you know, we're pretty much on par with everything through the first quarter. There's really nothing that's crazy out of line. It's 1/4 of the way in. You know, I didn't go through every single line.
What's UF?
Huh?
What's UF payroll? What is that?
I'm sorry. What happens is that our QuickBooks has a payroll module that the auditors have us put in. It has to pay out of one fund. So it pays it out of the general fund. So that means we have to move money into the general fund from the utility fund to pay, because your check comes out of it. So that's money that, we have to show that money going into the general fund, so it writes the check out of the general fund. It's just a transfer in. But we haven't had much because summer hasn't worked very much, as you know. But that's, and we always have the option of paying summer, writing her a physical check out of the utility fund. But we're trying to use the payroll module. But yeah, so that's a real small number. Okay? Everything else, like I say, is pretty much right on par. We've already made the bond payments, everything's chugging right along. You know, if anything, the water and sewer fund, we know, you know, we'll see what happens with the new rates. People may use less, they may, you know, we'll see. But right now, those are very conservative numbers. But there's the other income, and we've taken in $19,172 in insurance and reimbursable stuff, and we had a 0 in that line. So,
What was the 75 for?
so there's 75,000 in the engineer.
For the well?
Yeah, the idea was that what we thought we'd have to do is hire the engineer to either we had to do a well study, to do some sort of design work, to design the well, and look at the site, and get all that kind of going. So we just put 75,000 in that line.
So now we're not going to do anything with the well?
Right, the emphasis is kind of shift right now until we get the wells dropped. If we saw the driller hasn't showed up yet to drop the wells. So I think we all know how much that's driving everybody crazy, but hopefully that'll be soon. But basically, for us right now, we gotta get ready for the roads.
But we're still dropping the wells?
We're dropping the wells
Yeah,
for sure.
okay.
And dropping the wells is only about $5,000 to $7,000 expense. It's not that costly to drop the wells,
If we can get the guy here.
if he'll show up. Because frankly, you know, you guys are gonna be dealing with $4 million worth of roads and trying to deal with $1 million worth of well at the same time. That's a lot. So if you know, fingers crossed, we drop the wells, that works out fine. Then we can let that resolve itself and focus on the roads. Okay?
We have to approve the budget then, right?
Yes.
Any other comments, questions?
Huh?
Do you have any other comments?
I'm good.
I make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the budget amendment.
I'll second.
Clint has a second. All those in favor? Thank you. You got that, Linda?
Yep.
Okay. All right, next up, we have, all right, concrete roads, and this is just an update. Todd's here. I put this on there just in case anybody had any questions. that they wanted to ask Todd specifically. Did you want to ask a question? Anybody? You sure you're good?
I'm good.
Danny, you got any?
Okay.
Anything? Okay. I just want to give everybody a chance. Look, we're going to probably have concrete roads on every single agenda from now, just to make sure that we can discuss it. If anything comes up, any concerns, any issues, I'm not going to make him come every time. He volunteered to come this time, so he won't be that on.
Yeah.
But I think we're in good shape as far as I'm real glad to move forward, keep moving forward.
It went easy on our side.
So
It did, it really
That'd be
it
fun.
really wasn't inconvenient, I didn't think.
yeah, okay. One of the things that for concrete roads, so I'm going to talk with Andy about this. Hopefully we'll talk about it. But one of the issues that I think we're going to end up having, we're going to have some sort of ordinance which somehow makes you obey the traffic flow. It's going to have to be something. Because
Keep people off the concrete until
I-
it's cured and that kind of thing.
I am anticipating that we're going to have a couple of people over in the shores that are going to decide they're not going to follow the rules. They're going to drive around the barricades, they're going to drive through the wet concrete. They're going to do something. So I think we're going to have some sort of an ordinance or something in place which is going to protect the city. We got to have something because I want to make sure that we're covered. We didn't have that happen. We only had we had 2 incursions over here. But like we had one person, a delivery person, just said screw it. And they didn't care. They were delivering to the far end of the peninsula. They just said to hell with it. And they just went around the barricade, drove through the wet concrete. They didn't care. They were delivery truck.
There's tire tracks right here at this driveway for somebody getting their mail.
Yeah. So I mean it. And we just. We had nothing to do. I don't know what recourse, we had. If you damage our road, you just deliberately drive through around an orange barricade, get out and move it, drive around it, drive through our wet concrete. I don't know what the solution is, but I want to talk to our attorney and find out if there's some.
Perhaps make a
Something.
for
Huh?
retribution or something.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Andy, do you want to talk about that
Well, you
executive
could
session?
probably issue some kind of citation, but the problem is how do you address it?
Well,
It's gonna
what
be
happened
after
over
the
here?
fact and maybe way after the fact.
Well, but if I see you coming out of your driveway and you drive through the wet concrete out of your own driveway,
Sure.
it's pretty.
Right, that's easy.
That's easy, right? And
Right.
that's going to be.
I'm talking about this going around the barricade or I guess by your.
I think if there's no eyewitness. and no
Right, how are you
proof,
gonna know that, who that is unless there's a camera?
And then once again, he said, she said.
Well, because my concern, I want to have some ammunition that says, look, they're going to pour the concrete in front of your house. In 2 days, get your car out. We're going to be here at 9 in the morning. We're going to pour concrete right across the front of your driveway. You can't get out for 2 days. It takes 2 days to harden. Over here, nobody had a problem. Everybody got their cars out, and you parked on the other side of the street for 2 days. But I want to have something when some prima donna decides, screw you, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to move my car. You can't make me, and I'm going to leave my car. And
Are there any more
But-
difficult barriers we can put up other than cones that aren't so much trouble with moving around?
It's people.
it's just people. But I want to be able to say, look, if you do that, there's going to be a penalty.
I agree. I think we need to take a look at it. It's probably not anything we can really sort out tonight. We can just be
But-
proactive.
So I'm throwing this out there that that's another thing that's part of the roads and just another thing that we've got to sort out between now and next February. And everybody just keep thinking off the top of their head, just keep thinking about issues. We didn't have that issue over here, but we did have an issue over here.
We did.
We did have.
We just got to watch it.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, any questions? Everybody Again, if you have any questions about the contract, we'll just leave, it's gonna be, that's what we're gonna be doing. All right, next up, ordinance 1408. So, this is a discussion only item. So way back when, so in 2014, when we put in the concrete streets over here, we, remember, we didn't raise the tax rate up to cover the bond payment. We only raised it a nickel instead of 20 cents. And we ate the rest of it out of the general fund and did reserves. So the problem that we had at the time was we had to do repairs on this side of town. Everybody that didn't get the concrete streets, those roads needed to be repaired. But the problem was, if I were to sit there at the time and I'm doing the city finances, well, how much do you want to spend on road repairs to repair that side of town? Well, you could spend as much as you want. You spend $100,000 or 80 or 90 or 150. It was unbounded. You could spend as much as you could fixing these streets over here, patching them and doing whatever. But we couldn't because we had to pay for the concrete over here. So the idea was, how do we kind of discipline ourselves so we can make some repairs where we have an amount? So the idea that I came up with was to create this ordinance where we took a little bit of the sales tax and we stuck it in this bucket. And we made them use the big roll-off containers on new houses. And we get the sales tax on those trash containers. And there's a fee for those. So what happened is, each year we'd get this money and it would go in the bucket. So what we would do at the end of the year, we'd look and say, well, how much is in the bucket? There's $17,812. Well, then that's what we could spend. That's our budget. And we'd go fix it. Or we'd say, let's just roll it over till next year. And when we get, now we have 28,000, let's do 28,000. But we're not doing 30, that's it. So that way, it basically was self-funding. I could focus the rest of our attention on the city, right? Running the city and paying the bonds and keeping the city running with that nickel, and let the repairs be on their own, right? It was on autopilot. So, and that worked pretty well, because that's the way we had to do it. Now we're done. There's no reason to do this anymore. We're not making any more repairs. We're shredding that in next March or whatever. The only appearance that's going to happen is a bag of asphalt, a cold mix. If somebody wants to buy one, you can chuck one in a hole, because that's it. There's no reason to have this funding. We don't need it anymore. We've been basically bleeding it down, I have, in the last 2 years, doing drainage improvements on this side of town. Now that the concrete's in, we've had to redo some ditches over here, and we've had to do some ditch work. It's actually going on now as we speak. But basically, that money is gone. We only have about $2,000 in the account. So I'd like to, next month, I'm going to bring you, I don't know what we do. An ordinance to dissolve an ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, so we have to, there'll be an ordinance, it'll be probably a short one. Does everybody kind of understand, this is no longer needed anymore? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next up is, this is a discussion only. It's a discussion of a municipal court of record. So let me preface this again by saying, one of the problems that we have is that our municipal court, it's perfectly fine. It's a perfectly fine municipal court, just like a lot of cities. But if you appeal from here and you appeal to Denton County gets to decide what they want to do. Because they have a limited number of prosecutors, so many courtrooms, judges, they only have so much time. So if somebody wants to appeal that they had tall weeds and grass, and they get fined in our court, they want to take it to Denton County, it's perfectly reasonable that Denton County would say, look, I've got, I got a robbery over here and a larceny over there, and whatever, we don't care. I just don't have the resources to spend time on your issue. And that's a fact. And I'm not picking on them. That's just a resource thing. That's why they make deals and all that. I mean, it's a resource allocation. So for us, if we are a court of record, the problem if you appeal it to Denton County is there's no record. They don't have anything to look at. Because we did it, our judge spoke, but there's no record. There's nothing, it starts over again at Denton County, just like you're having a new trial all over again. If you're a court of record, they have something to look at. Then you gotta appeal it based on the error. It's much more likely that you won't go there. Or
Or
that-
that we're reversing under judge if they make a different decision.
Yeah, they've got to have Andy, can you step in? I mean,
Sure, so the way this works is, right now, the municipal court, there's no, you have a right, whoever loses has a right to appeal, but the district attorney can decide not to prosecute. That's how that would work. And that can't happen, as the mayor said, because of lack of resources, which understandable, for sure, depending upon what the offense is. And then we have no power over that. We can ask them to prosecute it all we want. It's their total discretion whether they do that or not. If you become a court of record, it gives us more control and power. And so if someone comes to our court, that the trial has a meeting, and they have to, and then so if they get convicted and they want to appeal that, they do have to show error, and then the county court of law judge or district court of law judge has to take that case and has to review it to determine if there is error, and the DA would have to use it. So it makes our prosecution much more meaningful than what it is currently.
and remember for us, anything that we have, what are we, Class C? Are we?
Yes.
I mean, kind of by definition, if you're in our court, it's not life altering. Because it's our court. It's tall, weights, and grade. You know, I mean, it's nuisancey kind of stuff. We can't prosecute burglary or assault, or those are all criminal code stuff.
It can be a Class C assault thing.
Okay.
But
You know what I mean?
yes, most things are everything's Class C, and they're relatively minor offenses in comparison to other higher misdemeanors and felonies.
And I can't tell you that if we did have some sort of ordinance that says, look, you just ruined 50 feet of concrete because you came out your driveway and ruined that whole panel because you got to the other side of the street and then rode on the other side of the street. If we end up prosecuting them here and they had some, if that went to Denton County, I can't tell you the prosecutor would care that somebody ran across concrete in Lakewood Village. Like, really? You really want me to? So I'm just thinking down the road that for us, you know, if we want to have, and I've seen the judge one time in 13 years. So it's not like we're a court generating, you know, we're out there on El Dorado hauling people in, 8 people an hour. I've seen him one time in 13 years, and that was a lunch meeting. So again, this is just discussion only. Does anybody have any questions about it? Would you like to ask Andy questions about it?
You don't have to have a court reporter either, so
It's just a,
it won't increase your cost.
Is it audio recording or audio and video?
I think it's audio, and I don't know that it has to be video.
Audio.
so Andy, if we had cameras here, like we were going to record, let's say the city council meeting, and this is where they have court, that would double this.
It would be helpful,
Okay.
but I don't think it's required.
No, but it would be,
Yeah, you could probably take that up with the record.
Yeah, we've discussed this several times. I don't see any downside to doing it. Is there any downside whatsoever for
No,
this, of
not
any kind of
really.
risk or anything like that?
No, not really.
your attorneys wouldn't prepare any differently, or?
No. It's all the same.
So now that it would be recorded, who actually, do we now file that with Denton County as a recording? So that
If it's appeal, that's the record on appeal.
I guess, managing the records themselves.
Yeah, that's probably your
We
secretary.
would maintain the record for, I think it's 21 days following the termination of the case, the end of the case. And that's the end of any notice, any motion, any of that.
It's a small life
It's
cycle.
a very, very small, short window. If they don't file for an appeal within that window, then we can destroy the record. And it's only if they appeal that we would then hire a court reporter to prepare a court reporter's record to send to the county.
At their
Take
expense.
that audio and put it in paper.
Right.
But they pay for
But
that.
they have to pay for that.
All right. I'm gonna bring this forward next month for consideration. Again, it's just discussion only now. Linda, have you talked to our judge? You talked to
I did send it
Greg?
to the judge, he said he scanned it, he didn't see anything, but he didn't do an in-depth review. So I haven't had any feedback from him.
Andy,
And
would you-
Andy's office has not reviewed it yet.
Andy, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Just real quick, so of your cities, how many of them, are most of them court of record? Or, I'd imagine Murphy was, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few that are, probably at least half, maybe more.
Okay.
Does it depend on the size, probably?
Usually. So the much smaller towns, they usually don't do that. Some do.
Okay.
And if they have their own police department.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
That's the big.
And code enforcement.
Yes.
Those usually go hand in hand.
Okay. All right then, next up, all right, so what we're going to do, because Andy's here, all right, we're gonna, Linda, do you have anything under reports?
I do not.
Clint, anybody got anything under this, anything? Okay, so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna go to executive session. We're gonna stay here, you all are gonna go out there. But I'm telling you right now, when we come back, we're not gonna do anything. There's not gonna be any actionable items coming back from the executive session, okay? But rather than trying to cram 8 of us in Linda's little office, we're gonna stay here so we can talk with our attorney.
Please take some cake with you.
Yeah, take some cake to keep you,
I'll take some cake.
I don't need any cake.
Yeah, you can.
I appreciate
Everybody
it.
leaves.
I appreciate everybody coming.
No, I'll come back and record afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll come back and record.
Grab your camera and hit the road.
No, I'll be back.
Then take the camera with you.
I'll just turn it off.
No, take it with you. I don't want it in here.
Okay, I will be back.
Okay.
I thought I was, that's strange. I didn't know I could get kicked out.